y'all, I'm so excited because I get to hang out with my good friend, fellow Ramsey personality, and host of the Fine Print podcast, George Kamel. George, thanks for being here.
It is so good to be here. This is, I'm first time on the show.
I know.
Long time watcher, so it's an honor.
Okay, let's tell them some fun facts about you because now you're an official Ramsey personality, you're a money expert, you are host of the Fine Print podcast. We're going to talk about all that in a minute. But you started as an intern? I don't even think I knew that until we did this shoot for Ken Coleman's show. But what's cool is you and I have similar stories in the fact that we started doing something different than what we're doing. So tell everybody a little bit about how you started here, because that's such a cool story of the beginning days.
Yeah, I was just happy to be here. So back in 2013, I was like, wow, I could work at this place. I'll do anything.
Yeah.
And so I was an intern and temp for a little while, for about 2 months. And I was just desperate to get in the door. And I said, I'll do anything. And so I found a spot in email marketing. And I went, I did some web design in high school. It's like pretty much the same thing.
I've sent an email before.
Exactly.
I can totally do this.
So I just I bought a book and convinced them that I could do this job. So that was my first full-time role here, was in email marketing, and I moved to social media for the personalities. And so I always loved what the personalities were doing, was so connected to their message and trying to get that word out in a creative way that engaged people and helped transform their lives. And so over the course of a few years, 4 years in, I took over the hosting and MC duties, which Ken Coleman was doing. So live events, the live stream for the show, all these different things. And that over another 4 years led me to this role where I get to teach, speak, do all kinds of amazing things, host shows that continue to help transform lives, especially in the money space.
You know what's really cool, though, about your story, because I love sharing some steps in my story that got me to where I am, not because it's a formula that everybody can do it, but there are principles that you could take from this and go, oh, wow, you did it scared. You said yes to an opportunity before you knew how to do it. All these things that are parallels for what I've done. When I walked on my first stage speaking, I'd never spoken before. I figured out how to speak by speaking. And you, even with email marketing and those examples, and what's cool is, especially with the money space, you have been living these principles off camera for years. So you have this integrity of walking out the content, teaching, researching, working with people, even in your host role, as you got to talk to people and have this first, front row seat to the life change, to what is working. And it's just so interesting. But at the same time, you were willing to raise your hand and be like, hey, put me in, coach. I can do that. Let me try. Yeah, I'll take that on. And I just think that's such a great lesson for people listening, feeling like, well, I'm not qualified, or I don't have the experience, or whatever. And gosh, you're just such a testimony of somebody that just figured it out as you went and made it happen anyway. So
that's so kind.
I love that. And a lot of our listeners and viewers are in the Business Boutique audience, and you worked directly on the Business Boutique brand. Y'all don't know this, but George worked on this stuff.
It was like a startup, and we were like, what if we did this Business Boutique thing? And so I got grabbed.
Deal, sure, yes.
I was stolen to that team, and I was like, this is so fun. And we were learning how to do webinars, and we started doing events and traveling the country. And the energy, I miss the energy from those days of traveling with you guys, doing these events. And obviously the Business Boutique event it's epic. I mean, it's famous now for the energy and the content and the transformation that happens there. So I have loved getting a front row seat, watching you grow this thing and grow this tribe of women who are just on fire to grow in so many ways.
Well, thank you. I think it's so fun to think back to those early days, because people might see you now hosting the Ramsey Show, hosting your own podcast, which I want to get into in a minute. And just recently, you hosted the Ramsey Show by yourself.
Yes.
Guys, this is a big deal, okay? Taking all the calls, running all the board, the buttons, the calls, hitting the clock. I've never done that. Like, that is impressive that you did the whole show by yourself. And I think it's easy for them to see that and be like, oh, well, you just woke up there. You just woke up in that seat. And that's not the story. I love giving the backstory of you started as an intern. You're like, I will do anything because I believe in this company. And you took opportunities and you learned and grew and worked on yourself. That's led to what you're doing today, which is just so fun to see.
Yeah, definitely some pinch me moments there.
Yes. But you put in the work, which is just so cool. Okay, so I have been talking specifically in this show about money mistakes. And I think that a lot of people are making money mistakes and they don't even realize they're making them. And I gave some examples. For example, not combining your accounts if you're married, which is just a huge miss. I'm shocked, speaking of, how often we get this call on the Ramsey Show that people have not combined their money. And I just forget that that's common. That using debt, spending money before you have it, not saving, just some of the basics, because I think it's one of those things that we don't talk about it enough, and people can be making huge mistakes in their money and don't realize it. So from your seat, now that you are fully in the money space, you're teaching this, you're teaching this not only on the Ramsey Show, but also on the Fine Print podcast. What are some of the things that you're seeing that really hold people back? And don't feel like it can be too basic, because I think sometimes we think everybody knows what we know because we talk about it all day, every day inside these walls, but the average person doesn't know this stuff. So what are some of the things you're seeing is like, man, these hurdles or these roadblocks, they really hold people back?
Well, for starters, I believe that if you follow the trends, you will fall for the traps. And so what I'm seeing is people are reading the headlines, they're listening to their broke friends, and they're going, well, my buddy told me I got to get Tesla stock, and my buddy said I got to get the Robinhood app, and I got to get my credit score up if I want to be winning with money. And so those are the kinds of myths that I want to bust with the Fine Print, help people understand all of these hidden truths that are keeping them broke.
Yeah.
Because they're doing all these things, and they're wondering why they're not making progress.
Right.
And they're comparing themselves to people that look like they're making progress who maybe really aren't.
Right.
And so some of the biggest things I see is credit cards. The credit
Will
card.
you teach them about this? Because
score.
Seriously, I have talked about this, and I feel like they need to hear it from someone else.
It's the thing
so
they
just let
go,
us have it.
I love Ramsey, but man, I'm not cutting up my card. I get my points, right? And so this is one of the things we dug into on the Fine Print. It's actually one of the first episodes we did on the podcast was all about credit card rewards. I call it the rat race because that's what it is. And it reminded me then of Chuck E. Cheese. When you were young and you would go in with $20 and that would turn into tokens. The tokens would turn into some entertainment. And then you'd walk away with a pile of tickets that got you sticky hands and a pack of gum. And you're like, okay, let's backtrack. Let's reverse engineer this. So you spent $20 to get maybe $1 worth of stuff.
Sure.
And so that's kind of what's happening with credit card rewards. When you look at the actual percentages in cash back, you're getting maybe 2% cash back. And the average person, once they have their net take-home pay and what they can actually use their card for, if they say, I'm going to put everything on the credit card and get my rewards, and I'm not going to spend a dime more than I would have if I use cash. First of all, I question that. But second of all, the amount of money you're getting back is maybe a few $100. That's not changing your life. That's not how you're going to build wealth. The way you're going to do that is by having a plan for your money, doing a budget, living on less than you make, and paying for your own vacations. And you can do that when you follow our plan. So that's one of the things I see that's holding people back that they just can't let go of. It's sentimental to cut up that card that they had since college that got them a free pizza.
It's so fascinating. I remember watching one of our old videos that we put out as a company. I mean, this is years ago, right? Close to when I started in 2009. And Joe Levitt was out doing kind of man on the street interviews, and he was talking to people about credit card points, like you're saying. And he asked this one young woman, and he was like, do you like credit cards? Oh yeah, I love them, And he said, well, how many do you have? She's like, I don't know, like probably like 17 or 18. And he's like, well, do you get like, what do you like about it? And she said, the points. I love the points. I get cash back. And he said, okay, well, like how much cash did you get back this last time you cashed in your points? And she said, $200. And he's like, wow, yeah, $200. And he said, how much did you have to spend to get $200 back? She was like, $30,000. And he goes, is that good math? To spend $30,000 to get $200 back? But that's what they do. These credit card companies are distracting you with the points, the rewards, the free flyer miles, the cash back, the free pizza, free t-shirt, whatever stupid carrot they're hanging out going, look at this awesome thing. You only need to spend your entire life savings in order to get it.
It's
and
insane.
So I love how you're shining a light on that and just exposing the truth behind some of the games that these credit card companies are playing. What do you think is the biggest thing that people need to be aware of in order to avoid that trap? Because I know you dug into one thing you said of people think, oh, well, I won't spend a dime more. They do spend more money than they plan to. What are some other things around points where we get stuck there?
There was a Bank of Austin study that showed that you spend 409% more using a credit card versus cash.
409.
Yes, it was insane. And we also find that 31% of people never even redeem their rewards. There's a lot of reasons for that. You forget, there's restrictions, there's blackouts, and the point system gets so confusing. And guess what? They can change the value of what those points are worth at any time. And so the companies know this. There's a reason they do points instead of cash, because your brain goes, I have 40,000 points. What does that mean? Oh, it's $4.
Right.
And so you've got to actually understand that they're doing this to gamify it. And we actually talked to an ex-Capital One employee on the podcast, Elena, who really unpacks the 10,000 social experiments they do on people to get them to spend more, to get them more ingrained in the system, to get them to play this game so that they think they're winning.
Right. And it's so interesting, too, because we really believe that they are for us. Like when we watch the ads, we think, oh my gosh,
they're my friend.
They're helping me out. It's free money. Yes. And it's like the fact that we fall for that is just crazy to me. Honestly, if I didn't work here and wasn't so ingrained in it all day, every day, it's a very powerful influence, persuasion, psychology. Like the thing that they are studying is not just money and even behavior. It's the psychology that leads to that, and they're preying on that.
Yeah.
And so I think that is so good that you're shining a light on that.
This is the craziest part that a lot of people don't think about.
Okay.
When it comes to credit card rewards, you got to think, where are these rewards coming from? And when you really dig into it, it turns out all of the money that you're getting back is being made off of the backs of people who are struggling with money. It's on the back of the single mom who can't afford her payments, who's paying late fees and interest. And when you think about it that way, it just makes you feel a little gross. And you go, do I want to be a part of this system? Do I want to even support this industry that is hurting people financially?
Yeah.
And I'm winning because of it. I'm standing on the top of all these people going, look at me, I'm winning, I got a free flight. And all these people out there are struggling. So you gotta draw a line in the sand and go, what are my values? And if my values are, I don't want to be a part of a system that hurts people financially, then you got to go, all right, I'm not going to do the credit card game anymore.
It's so powerful, too, when you just take it off the table. And you can do that with credit cards or student loans or anything. When you take it off the table, you find a way to manage your money, pay cash, pay for college, whatever the thing is. But as long as that option is on the table, the easy option, because it's so much easier to sign your name to a student loan or to swipe a card than it is to go take cash out or budget or, watch your bank account. If you take that, if the option is available, you'll take it. But if you take it off the table, you start to get creative and just be more disciplined. People are shocked that I don't have a credit card. Like, how do you live? How do you live? How do you travel? I do. It's crazy.
And the same thing applies to the credit score. How do you live without a credit score? You can't do anything. You can't leave the house without a credit score.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing we tackled on the podcast because it's so tied to the credit. One of the reasons they say is rewards, and I got to keep my credit score up. That's why you
These
go
are
into debt. And so they're so connected. And so one of the things that we teach also on the podcast is about credit scores and how it's a giant scam.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And you don't have to play that game. You can do all the things you think you can't do without a credit score. You can rent cars. You can buy a house through manual underwriting, which is something else we talk about heavily on the podcast, something I did personally.
Right.
So I'm not, this isn't theory. This is a reality that I've lived. Getting a hotel room and the car loan stuff. You don't need a credit score because we're paying cash.
Yeah.
We're not going into debt for a car.
Yeah. Half of the battle, I feel like, is just making people believe it's possible. And once they believe it's possible, then we can show you the plan. We can show you baby steps. We've got the tools from the podcast to the Ramsey show to the books that can show you how to work this plan. But you have to believe it's possible. And as long as you think, well, you're the exception to the rule because you're not getting scammed by credit card points or you're not spending too much money, then you miss out on the results that we've seen millions of Americans have from following the baby steps and from following this financial plan.
Yes.
George, I know you love taking on these topics. Especially in the Fine Print podcast, tell people a little bit about what the podcast is and where they can find it before we wrap up.
Absolutely. So the Fine Print with George Kamel, the hidden truths that are keeping you broke. And really, I want to uncover all these money traps and help people avoid them. And this is a different podcast from all the shows on the Ramsey Network. This is narrative storytelling. It's crafted. It's about 30 minutes an episode, and it's every other week. So you can get through these. Season 1 is out now. All the episodes are out. And we really want to help people understand this way and do it in an entertaining way.
Yeah.
So I want to entertain and educate. We have industry insiders, outside experts. We hear real stories from people, and I'm doing all these interviews, trying to weave this all together in kind of a crafted way that helps people change their paradigm, change their habits to change their life. So we're hitting all topics around money, and it's really the only place you can find a topical piece from Ramsey. You can hear a call on the show or read a blog, but nowhere else do you just have a deep dive on credit card rewards and credit scores and bankruptcy and DIY investing and all kinds of topics. So if you want to be more educated and feel like I'm confident with the choices I'm making with my money, this is a great podcast for you.
Yeah, and I love, too, how you take on things that are very current and relevant. So, like, for example, Afterpay, I'm sure you guys have seen this where you go to check out and it's like, oh, do you want to pay for this in payments? And it's only 3 cents, and you're like, I don't know, is this good or not?
You can do it on a pizza now. It's insane.
You really unpack what's going on behind the scenes so people are informed and they can make better decisions to not be broke. So this, it's really powerful. You've done such a great job, George. You have worked so hard to get to where you are, and you deserve every piece of it. Tell people, too, you're hosting the Ramsey Show. You've got the Fine Print podcast, so they can find you either of those places. Tell them where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. So I'm at George Kamel, which is with a K. So Kamel,
Sure.
George Kamel with a K, all over the place there. And I'm also hosting the Entree Leadership Podcast.
Yes,
I know
that's right,
a lot of business listeners out there.
Yep.
This is a great podcast if you're into business and leadership. We talk to experts, authors, speakers, Ramsey Personality Personalities. You're a frequent guest on there. And so I'm having a lot of fun hosting all the things, and especially hosting the Ramsey Show with you. Always a blast.
So fun. Well, George, you're awesome. Thanks for being here, and thanks for teaching us today.
Thanks so much.